Words of Radiance is the second entry in the Stormlight Archives series, and again I picked it up like this, so two individual 600-ish page novels, but of course you can get a hardback version which is about yay big if you fancy getting all the hand cramps, but I got dinky little porkers, so I prefer reading them like this, and especially as I don't like bending the spines all that much. But yes, if you watched my The Way of Kings review, I obviously go into a little bit of the world and the setting and etc, but I'm not going to do that for this one because I want to keep this review shorter, and going forward keep the review shorter. But Word of Radiance picks up directly on from The Way of Kings, with Kaladin and the rest of Bridge 4 now belonging to Dalinar after rescuing them from Sadeas' betrayal, and of course Dalinar surrendered over Oathbringer his shard blade, which was the price for the slaves. So that's pretty cool there, and obviously again follows on from The Way of Kings, so spoilers for The Way of Kings, I suppose. I'm not going to give too much away, but you need to know what happens in there to know what's happening here. There's also Shallan, who now discovered that she has the abilities of a Surge Binder as well, and she's now been fully accepted by Jasnah, even after she tried to steal from her. They are on the ship on their way to the Shattered Plains to visit Jasnah's mother, Navani, and to find the seat of the Old Knights Radiant, the city of Urithiru, like a city tower. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Again, my pronunciations may be wrong. I do apologise if they are. I'm a simple Englishman after all, so you know, if a word's not plain English, I may struggle saying it. But Shallan's story in Words of Radiance really does shoot off, but I'll get onto her a little bit more later on in this review. And of course there are the Parshendi, who are up to... You get a bit more of a view from the Parshendi side with a character called Ishonai. I'm not going to give too much away, but there's basically a plot afoot, which really does kick off towards the end of the book, and they are up to no good. Now, the main thing to take into consideration with the second book is the character arcs. They are phenomenal. Everything comes together. In the first book, The Way of Kings, Brandon Sanderson does a fantastic job of bringing to life Kaladin, Shallan, Dalinar, Dalinar's sons, Adolin and Renarin, King Elhokar, who's paranoid that somebody's trying to kill him, even though it turned out that he plotted his fictitious assassination on himself for some weird reason. Of course, Sadeas turned out to be a slimy little weasel, and he's no better in this book. Sadeas is still there. He still keeps... he's still up to no good, and I'll let you read through that one all you want. Now, Kaladin goes through an inner turmoil in this book, The Words of Radiance, because he hates Light Eyes, as we know, but choices and decisions need to be made, and he needs to he grows his abilities, and at one point, for reasons, they get stripped away from him, and he has to make some choices that he initially didn't understand or want to like to start with, but it all comes around, and his character, he really does just shine towards the end of this. And of course, with Shallan especially, she goes from being the shy young woman that she starts off as, and she becomes a strong woman who fights for her own, and she gets her own spren in this called Pattern, and the relationship between her and the spren grows, and as her abilities grow. I believe what she's called is a light weaver. I think I've been reading a lot of Stormlight Archives, so I apologise, but her ability is to be able to, she can create illusions, so she makes herself look like somebody else, a Dark Eyes called Veil, and she mixes up with a group of shady people called the Ghost Bloods, and they want in on the action of finding Urithiru as well, and she gets mixed up with the wrong people. But her backstory, like with Kaladin's in the first book, her backstory in The Words of Radiance is fully realised. You get to see what happened with her mother, with her father and her brothers back at her, in her home at the Devar homestead, and again just fleshes it all out and just really, just builds upon her character. It gets even better. Dalinar takes a bit more of a back seat until towards the end of the book, but his visions have stopped, but he knows he has to go out onto the Shattered Plains, and he's made aware that something is happening, and they're all building up to just take all the High Princes and all their armies together and have one great big final assault on the Prescendi to take them all out and end the Vengeance Pact. Of course, that's not how it goes down, but that's all I will tell you for that one. Now, one of the main highlights of this book was when Kaladin and Shallan meet. Now, all of the characters in the first book, like Kaladin doesn't meet Dalinar until towards the end when he rescues him, but with this book, Shallan, Kaladin, Dalinar, Adolin and Renar, they all meet. They all come together pretty much very early on in the book, and they all carry on intermingling, and Kaladin and Shallan start off on the wrong foot, with Shallan taking Kaladin's boots and pretending to be a Horn Eater, and they get thrust into. So throughout the book, they're to and fro in with one another with quips, because Shallan obviously likes to if she thinks of something funny and slightly insulting to say, she'll say it without thinking. And she's trying to impress Adolin, and her relationship with Adolin actually grows, feels natural as it continues. But also there's a relationship that builds with Kaladin, because her and Kaladin get thrust into a position within the chasms of the Shattered Plains, and they have to survive together because a high storm's on its way. And of course, as we know from the Way of Kings, if you are stuck in the chasms below the Shattered Plains during a high storm, you're going to die from flash floods and from just the debris and everything that it brings with it. Not to mention there's also chasm fiends, which one of them may rear their ugly head. But all of that was really, really enjoyable to read, and their conversations, it just all feels natural. The character development throughout the series is fantastic. Brandon Sanderson really is probably my favourite author now, and I've only read a few of his books, and I intend to read them all. But Words of Radiance especially just took everything that was great about the Way of Kings and just completely amplified it, and just doubled everything. Doubled the character development, doubled the time, doubled the action. There's a lot more action. There's a cool scene in the middle of the book where Adolin is still sparring with other High Princes and winning their shards, just like from the first book. However, this time it doesn't go according to plan, and he may get outnumbered, and he gets help from an unlikely hero, and they fight together. And then of course it just all kicks off. Of course, I want to talk and say things and this was awesome and that was awesome, but I want you to read it and I want you to enjoy it yourselves. But all I'll leave you with is that Words of Radiance is once again a fantastic entry in the Stormlight Archives, and again, one of the best books I've read in a long time, and I really have nothing negative to say about it. All the backstories, everything is just, it's great. It's close to perfect as you can get. It's just a phenomenal read. But thank you very much for watching this book review, and I shall catch you on the next one next week, when I'll be reviewing the novella Edge Dancer, which is based between Words of Radiance and Oathbringer. I read that one on the weekend just past, but I am currently munching my way through Oathbringer. Again, I mean, slight spoiler for that one, it's still really good. So I shall munch through Oathbringer and then bring you that review ASAP as well. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.